our fellow citizens who are currently overseas. Give us all perseverance to press through discouragement and gratitude to acknowledge you in any success. So, Lord God, what we know not, teach us. What we have not, give us. What we are not, make us. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
A blessed good morning to all of you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. This honorable chamber is now in session.
Good morning to all in earshot of my voice and those who are watching who can see the physiog represented obviously in the colors that would indicate the type of discussion we will have today as I seek to bring order and governance to what we would consider the hydrosphere. I want to start, Madam Deputy Speaker, with a quote by an American swimming champion, none other than Aaron Purcell himself, who said that the ocean is the lifeblood of our world. If we were to lose our fish by overfishing or unsustainable practices, or if we are to lose our beaches to overbuilding and pollution, then how would we be able to live? How would we feel? It will become a case of knowing what you have or not knowing what you have until it is gone. It will become a case of not knowing what you have until it's gone. Madam Deputy Chair, this bill and what we have been doing in the industry for the last 7 years will ensure that our fisher folk and those who operate in the maritime space will not have to lose hope. They will not have to ask where the beaches have disappeared to. They will not have to ask where the fish stock is. With the sustainable practices that we intend to bring to those persons, the sustained livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, we are now talking about those persons being able to live the Bajan fishing dream, or the Barbadian dream, fishing dream, as I would call it. Mr. Speaker, and I want to start by paying tribute and giving thanks, because the exercise was not one where I alone, or this minister alone, decided to embark on this journey to help us realize the full potential of our maritime space. It started with the vision, Mr. Speaker, and I want to repeat. It started with the vision, the visual acuity of none other than the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, the Honourable Prime Minister. And I want to applaud her for having that vision in 2018 to decide that the time was ripe to have a Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, specifically to deal with the issues as it relates to not only 200 nautical miles of our space, but even beyond our horizon. To have that vision, and not only to talk the talk, but have the investment as well. I want to declare today and let every Barbadian know that since 2018, we have spent upward of $100 million in the maritime industry and the blue economy since 2018. But what have we done? Because we have not only built out our sustainable practices, but we have built out physical plants across the length and breadth of Barbados. And it started by a young man who operates in the constituency, the good constituency of St. Michael South. It is not about me. He had a Usain Bolt moment, and it passed it on, and I ran as fast as I could to ensure that this industry survived the test of time. And I want to say thanks from all four chambers of my heart to none other than the Member of Parliament for St. Michael South, who made it his daily business to ensure that there was representation at all levels in our maritime space. Ensure that Barbados had a seat at the table, that we had the Shirley Chisholm moment, where we didn't have to bring a chair and beg for a space, that when we went to the international meet, that a space and a table and a chair was put for Barbados because we had a meaningful voice. We had a contribution to make as it relates to the sustainable development of not only our EEZ, but beyond, because our contribution was worth listening to. And persons in the international community roll out the blue carpet, not the red carpet, no. They roll out, not the red carpet, the blue carpet in the fishing industry for Minister Humphrey, so that he could help realize the dream of those persons in the maritime space. And I thought, the truth is, don't tell no lie, the Member of Parliament for St. Michael South is here to join us because he knows that it is the truth. Work with every sweat architecture to ensure that the space had meaning and those in the industry could sustain their livelihoods. Because the most important part of this conversation, the fulcrum that must affect every single person that operate in every nook and cranny of the space, is the sustainability of livelihoods. And that is what our mission was at the time, and still is. And that is what this legislation will do when it seeks to embody all the concepts associated with sustainable development. And our sustainable development goal, 14, which is life in the ocean space. I want to say, and I will call out some of the developments, because sometimes you have to not only talk the talk, but ensure that the Member of Parliament of St. Michael South walk the walk and did the do for the good people in that sector. And I want to say that these are the things that were done, because I spoke about the investment. We have vendor stall upgrades at Berenda Cots and Bridgetown Market so that the conditions for our vendors, the Berenda Cots. Berenda Cots is, so, and the constituency of Christchurch South. The Berenda Cots Market down so the sister constituency of the Member of Parliament who is speaking now. Vendor stalls and upgrade to Berenda Cots. We had the upgrades to the jetty at the Berenda Cots Market so the fishermen can have safe access to their vessels. And the Bridgetown Public Market upgrades so that we can have the sanitary conditions as it relates to our export potential, bring a new meaning to the word foreign exchange. That is the economic benefit. And the minister, I said, he's a short man, but he had the Usain Bolt moment. He ran fast with it. Significant upgrades to Pearl Bay fish landing facilities, Member of Parliament for St. Michael's South. Refurbish and have a state-of-the-art facility at the Millie Eiffel Fish Market. People say Millie gone to Brazil. She right here in Western and living large and in charge. $2.5 million upgrade. And I want to say, albeit that we saw something in the papers only recently, I don't know where it came from, but I happened to visit because I don't only want to hear, I want to see with my own two eyes. I happened to visit the market on Monday. Recognize, of course, that there were some issues being highlighted in the press, and I wanted to make sure, because you have to speak truth to power. John 8 verses 44 speak about the devil being a liar. I don't think anybody in this chamber purports to be the devil. But I want to speak truth to power. I want to speak truth to power today and to say that the Preston facility, where government spent about just over $2 million on, not only has 4 lockers in the inside, but not four bathroom facilities in the inside for male and female, but you got bathrooms on the outside for persons with disabilities, keeping in concert with that which the Member of Parliament for St. Michael's South now has oversight of persons with disabilities. There are bathrooms for persons with disabilities at the Millie Eiffel Market. Millie right here in Barbados. And not only that, for the fishermen who have to ply their trade 2-3 o'clock in the morning with their boats, we also have locker facilities on the outside where they can walk in and put all the equipment and everything, every single thing. Sanitary conditions, pristine environment, and as I said, Millie, she would probably be post 100 years by now. I am sure she is dancing with the angels in her fishing heaven right now as she look down and see the beautiful facility that we have put there for her. Money well spent. Come into PSB. Ain't no pain in me talking about PSB. Upgrades to the Bridgetown jetties, the jetties in Oysters and the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex and Spikestown jetties so that the fishermen can offload their fish and traverse in a safe and a productive way. Concept Bay, we are still working on the slipway for the Concept Bay facility, but we have, and if you look into Bonfire, you will see that there is an ad right now for the boatyard facility in the public domain where persons can tender because we intend to have a specialized boatyard facility in Concept Bay, St. John. In Concept Bay, St. John. A boatyard facility and in the next couple of months, and I see the Member of Parliament, I see the Member of Parliament to my right, and your left on screen. I see he's raising his vocal abilities because I think that by the time he finishes this speech, he will get vocal fry laughing in here. Because there's a lot in the works for St. John. along with the boatyard facility, which will be a proper pristine facility for repairs of the boats, etc. We will be having in St. John, a fisherman's community hub. You hear it? Fisherman's community hub, where the fishermen can do their recreational activities, where they can learn, have that experience, that scientific training, where they will have, where they will have, I don't know about that, where they will have, where the fishermen and the fisher folk will have a space that they can come and be educated and get all the technical expertise that they need to help develop their industry, along with having a recreational space to play table tennis, etc., going to the gym, whatever they want to do, because we believe that we must invest in the people who have been the bedrock of this society for eons of time. And I make no apology by saying so. They are the bedrock. They are responsible for a lot of us being in here today. I can say so without apology. They are responsible for a lot of doctors, scientists all over the world, the fisher folk in the community, who by the sweat of their brow insist that they're able to feed the land. And that's why I'm saying there are a tangible state in this community as it relates to sustainable development, without a doubt. That's why I said this bill will capture the whole essence of sustainable development of livelihoods. And that is what we're dealing with today. I want to say that slipways were also done at Pearl Bay and Western. Repairs to the breakwater at the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex, I told you that is on the way, and I will talk about that later. And a lot of the infrastructure projects that are now in our estimates. Madam Deputy Chair, how did we get here, though? How did we get with this bill called the Sustainable Fisheries Management, the Sustainable Fisheries Management and Development Bill, and its sister bill, the Sustainable Fisheries Management and Development Seafood Markets and Business Bill? I call one the pre-catch bill and the post-catch bill, or pre-harvest and post-harvest. One before, that's all inclusive of all the things you would do before you catch the fish, and the next one will speak to what we will do in terms of the processing and ensuring that it's marketed so that we can get not only foreign exchange, but that we can get wholesome food for the palates of our people who richly deserve it. That is what I'm saying. But how did we get here? This bill did not drop out the sky like an episode from the Chicken Licking saga. It did not. It came about because we had constant, detailed conversation with not only our stakeholders, which means the stakeholders for us are the members from the various fisheries committees and organizations across Barbados. We had consultation with all. We also consulted with the members of the Fisheries Advisory Committee, whose job is to advise the minister, and the minister will take that advice and take it to the place where it is exposed for further consideration. We had conversation with that organization. And I want to tell you, because it is not normal for me to call out the name of persons in this august chamber. But I was given permission since last week to be able to salute the efforts of the president of the Barbados National Union of Fisher Folk Organization, who has stand steadfast at the side of government to ensure that we build up the fishing industry, none other than Ms. Verna Nichols herself. I want to thank her, and I want to thank every fisherman who has stood with us, because it's not how you do when things are good, but it's how you operate and how you are able to resist. It is called resilience when things are bad. I always thought that the word resilience, it should not be used in a whimsical way, but it shows the resilience when things are bad, when the conditions are nebulous. And we are able, with the partners, as I just mentioned, Banufo, the large fish processors, because they were willing to say to us, when the unfortunate incident of Hurricane Beryl, we are here with you, government, to ensure that we bring in those that fish stock so they won't have a shortage of fish in Barbados. Because we know how Barbadians love our fish. that love pork and that love fish. Two extremes. I love one, that is fish. Probably that's why I'm the minister responsible for the maritime affairs and blue economy. The government agencies, we had consultation, numerous consultations with other government agencies, including our coastal zone management unit. Because as I said in my inception, Aaron Purcell said, his quote says that it is not only the fish stock, but it is the infrastructure stock as well. So we recognize that we must have infrastructure, proper infrastructure management from coastal as it relates to our breakwaters, our grains, etc. Because unless we have those infrastructures, then we won't have the ecosystems management that we intend to have. And that's why we speak about our marine spatial plan and what it's supposed to do in the next couple of minutes. Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Chair, sorry. We had a conversation with academia because those persons involved from a scientific level had to put input into this bill as part of the built out. Because this is, as I said, a new dimension, a new dawn, and a new deal for those persons in the fishing industry. And of course, the stakeholders groups, which right now will be too numerous to mention. Madam Chair, I don't want to catch vocal fry or glottal fry today, so I will try to keep it as limited as possible. And of course, and this is very important, we also had consultation, numerous consultations with persons, the experts, the international experts in both mariculture and aquaculture, the international experts who saw the bill and with first glance told us this bill has no issues. It is of a pristine state. It carries all of the factors that we would like in the bill. It speaks to every single thing that we are doing in the international sphere. It aligns with all the concepts of sustainable development. And you have the absolute green light to go ahead to run not only with the Usain Bolt moment, but the 100-meter like Caster Semenya. That's what they told us. That is what they told us. That we will have the moment. We have not only the speed, but the sustainability. That is what it said. And I want to say, I want to thank those persons who were involved in crafting this legislation. But it's not, although Barbados took the legislation a step further, because we also look at the new technologies that will inform fisheries. We look at those things that will transition us to not only a circular economy, because we understand the importance of just transitioning. Just transitioning must not only be the concept to bring things to a circular dimension or circular sphere, because we recognize, of course, that just transitioning must include those in the most vulnerable state, those who will be in the marginalized category, women in fisheries, for instance. And when you talk about our Sustainable Development Goal 12, which speaks to responsible consumption and production, we have to make sure that we involve those persons who we call the marginalized groups, the indigenous folk, those persons who are the women in the fisheries. And I want to say today, I want to salute those women in our fisheries division who are working with the FAO to turn the fish offal to agricultural product in a circular way. That is the circular economy I am talking about. So this bill allows, with proper structure, women to be at the core. It's an all-females Bridgetown Fisheries Group. I want to salute them today for the job that they are doing in response as they respond to the not only our need to have a circular economy and to drive much needed foreign exchange, but also it helps me with my other side of the ministry in terms of the offal going into the landfill. And I want to salute you, causing biomethane and affecting our environment as we know it. And you are doing, those women, I want to say today, you are doing a good work on behalf of the country. And that is what just transitioning is about. I want to say that the bill will encompass all the technologies that we are seeing across the world in terms of our fisheries, how we put those technologies into the boat so the captains, the crew, and those persons who work in the industry will feel safe when they go out to play their trade. That is the concept of the bill. So this bill has gone a little further than persons in the other states and the other countries. I want to say that Belize had a Fisheries Resource Act in 2020. But our bill has gone a step further because we have incorporated a number of things that will allow us, not only in terms of our aquaculture and mariculture, but will allow us to be able to have vessels in the not too distant future trawling and having control of that as part of our legislation. Mr. Speaker, Trinidad tabled in 2020 a fisheries management bill which has not been enacted as yet. And St. Lucia has an act in 2023, which is a consolidated version to include the Marine Management Authority and its power making laws and stuff. So across the Caribbean, there are different legislations, but I'm saying that this one here is the most inclusive, it is the most visionary, and I am proud to say that I am happy to associate myself with this type of legislation. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the time is right. There is never the wrong time to do the right thing. I want to repeat, there is never the wrong time to do the right thing. People may put all types of spin on that. All types of spin. Never the wrong time to do the right thing. Since 1993, 32 years ago, we were managed by a fisheries, it's called a Fisheries Act. That was very basic. It didn't speak to the new developments that our country has experienced over the last 30-something years. Because I'm sure that 30-something years ago, you never hear nothing about WhatsApp, social media, and Instagram, and all these technologies that, lines that are biodegradable, all those things you heard nothing about. This is a new era. This is the era of technology. This is the global era where Barbadians can see themselves now with the type of representation that we have on the international scene as global leaders. And that's what we are trying to create here, a condition where our people can aspire to be global leaders. I will always refer to the Shirley Chisholm scenario. You have to show up, you have to stand up, and you have to speak up. And today, I intend to do all three on behalf of the fisher folk in this country. And I want to say, we had a little amendments to the regulations in the year 2000, little amendments. But now in 2025, I am happy to say that this bill will ensure that our industry can survive the test of the economic times. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, all of us understand and are well aware of what took place on that fateful day, July the 1st. It is no secret. It made international news. Hurricane Beryl came and devastated our industry. Our breakwater that served the better part of 35 years was destroyed in the process. Over 200 plus boats had damage or were totally lost. That is known, it is written, it is understood, it is repeated all over Barbados, a lot in here, about the incident that happened. But as I said before, it is not how you deal, it's not how you react to the problem that really and truly brings order. It's not how you react, it is how you deal with it. So your reaction may be fearful at first. You may have consternation, you may put your hand in the air and say, what are you going to do now? But it's after that reaction, that initial shock, what you will do. I sum it up in 3 words, the 3 R's. On July the 1st, the first thing this government sought to do was to rescue. Rescue. There was a rescue effort led, of course, by the Prime Minister herself, the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, who at 2 o'clock in the morning, from the time we got the green light to be on the road, was at the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex, trying to bring some calm and order so we can start to face it and fix it. Rescue issue, first R. R number 2, there was an effort to rebuild. Operation number 2, rescue, rebuild, where we set aside to rebuild the industry in terms of the infrastructure and bring back confidence to the fisher folk that all hope was not lost. Because on this side of the table, hope for us means helping our people every day. A simple acronym, helping our people every day. And that's what we decided to do. And I want to thank those persons in the fisheries division in my ministry, led by none other than Dr. Shelley Ann Cox herself, for the sterling work they did in order to bring the industry to which part it is today. The sterling work, the unswerving work, the unreserved work. They were unbridled in their efforts. And Madam Deputy Speaker, you were a teacher, you could alliterate. They were on team in their efforts because they brought down all barriers to ensure that the fishermen could have a day where they could smile and say, we are back in the ocean fishing. That is what they did. And last but not least, after the rebuild, is to restore the industry by building forward better. Restore confidence in the industry. Restore the resilience that was missing. And to restore, of course, that hope that I spoke about earlier. Because hope must not be a misnomer for us. It must mean something for our people. And that's what we said. So, the first thing that we did after the incident, we had a cleaner exercise. And I want to be able to thank some people. Give God thanks. The first thing you have to do is give thanks unto God, for he is good and his mercy endures. I want to especially thank those persons who were on the ground immediately. And immediately, we had the BDF, and I want to thank them today, working in concert with the Fisheries Division to ensure the operationalization of that exercise was a success. The BDF, I want to thank them. I want to thank the workers of the NCC who work from morning till night for a number of days to ensure that they help with the cleaner exercise around the Bridgetown Harbor. I want to thank them. I also want to thank the members from the seaweed program who came out to clean up all the beaches. Remember for those members, those hard-working young men, I want to thank them. And I want to thank Minister Humphrey, the Member of Parliament for St. Michael South, for having the foresight to have a harvester who had to work morning, noon, and night in the fisheries complex to be able to remove all the debris and the harvester that was brought. And it worked the last seaweed system season as well when we were inundated with the seaweed. The harvester. I want to thank, because today the speech is about giving thanks. And we have to give thanks. I say, old people will say, it's an old axiom in Barbados, give God thanks for small mercies. We have to give thanks today. For those the Barbados Port Inc., man, who came on board to provide the emergency repairs for our breakwater. I thank the Barbados Port Inc. And if you could see, if you go down, if you happen to drive past in your busy schedule, by the mighty Great Highway, you will see the armored stones there, and you will see the work being done in the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex. The Bridgetown Fisheries Complex, as I speak, where we are building back a more resilient breakwater with 10 to 15 ton stones. And if you look at the mighty Great Highway, you will see about 37,500 tons of stone ready to build back our breakwater. As I said before, it is how you react in a situation that will define you. If you put your head on the table and say, oh Lord, I don't know what to do, then nothing will be done. But with the foresight and good leadership of the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, we said, let us face it and fix it. I am happy today to say that the contractors and the engineers who are working on the project, they have said that by June, July, latest, that we will have air breakwater, proper breakwater, to be able to resist the vagaries associated with those trusts. That's what they have said. And I'm happy with the work that's being done thus far. I want to say that we had government set up a benevolent fund because we understand that those persons' businesses would be interrupted over a period of time. And we said that we would give it for the first 3 months initially. You know the amounts already. Boat owners, $2,000 a month for 3 months at first. We extended to another 3 months, which is 6 months now. The captains and crews, same thing. I want to say and report to this August chamber, that so far, I want to get the figures right because they're quoting, we have spent, let me get it now, we have spent, in terms of our business interruption benefit, for boat owners, for captains, for crew, and for the one-off payment for vendors. I want everybody to hear the figure. $5,496,000. This government, who decided to fix it and fix it because we understand that a plan in action is not an action plan, so we have an action plan. We decided to fix it, and the fishermen, where we call the fisher folk, boat owners, captains and crew, receive $5,496,000. We also decided to help with the repairs of the boat, and to date, we have spent $1 million. This for the repairs of the vessel, so our fisher folk can go back in the ocean to play their trade, and about 50 boats have since been relaunched. $1,960,854.81. $1,960,854.81. Given a grand total, money spent so far in the fishing industry to help those fisher folk. The ordinary man that walks the street, the man who's out there fishing 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, to help them in terms of their business interruption, $7,456,854.81. This government of Barbados. And it wasn't only government alone, because I tell you, it's about giving thanks today. You have to thank some people, and I give thanks freely from all 4 chambers of my heart, including the vessels, all vessels, chambers, everything in my heart. Atrium and the ventricles. Yeah, I give thanks from all, every sinew of my being. The Barbados Red Cross Society reached out as well, and they told the vendors, we are going to help you. We are going to give you a helping hand, because they understand that partnership is an essential cog of sustainable development. It is one of the 5 planks. People is the next one. So they're helping people. They have decided to assist over 130 fish vendors, man, with a payment over a 3-month period of $1,800. That's $600 a month. I don't want it. That $600 is not greater than $1,800. This is not the man who was. Oh, I don't know. It's called, that's neology. That's neology. But for me, $600 a month for 3 months, as far as my calculation can lead me, is $1,800. $1,800 for those 130 fish vendors. A grand total of $280,284.39 from the Barbados Red Cross Society to help our fishing poor. The World Food Program. I understand how the member partner of St. Michael South, you leave this ministry, but you're still here, your tentacles still attached. The World Food Program, in association with your ministry, also give the boat agents. Now the boat agents, there are special categories in fishing. Fishing has some strange idiosyncrasies. There are special categories in fishing. You got some people called boat agents for the owners who don't want to go and do the work, the banking, et cetera, et cetera. And the boat owners do all the work on their behalf. Those boat owners who did not receive financial assistance from the Red Cross, those boat agents receive $4,500. I'm going to repeat. Boat agents who did not receive financial assistance from the Barbados Red Cross Society receive $4,500. And the fish vendors receive a one-off payment, those who did not receive from the Barbados Red Cross, of $1,800 via Western Union for our fishermen, for our fisher folk, for the people who work toil in the hot sun and the dangers of water. Because unlike some people, me and the member partner for St. Michael South, we went in the water, not in the putrid discharge. We went in the water. We went in the water. 2 ministers went in the water on fishing boats, to experience what life out there in the ocean with the fishermen. And I went with the Game Fishing Association. I got another trip to do a promise to the fishermen so we would understand, what is happening in our industry. Because, as I said, he who feels it knows it. He who feels it knows it. It's a simple axiom. He who feels it knows it. And I don't need old Talma in St. Philip, my man from St. Philip South, to be able to pick through him and then tell me so. He who feels it knows it. I want to also thank the District Emergency Department of Management, who also came on board. That department came on board to help and when we call out for assistance. I don't like singling out people. I don't like singling out people because I don't think that's the way we should allow the regulations of this August and Hello Chamber be dispensed. I have to call out. I want to especially thank none other than Heinz Transport. I really have to thank them because from the day the incident happened, they brought the equipment, they retrofitted some, they did everything to ensure that those boats that could be salvaged were rescued from the harbor, the bridge to harbor. I want to thank them today. I want to thank them. I want to thank their partnership again. People, partnership, and prosperity too. Peace is the next one. And all of us have to live in peace, not in pieces. So, Marenco Marine Limited, they supported the emergency repairs of our jetties. And I want to thank them because they came on board too. And the guys from Triple Tail Seafood who cleaned up all the debris out of the Bridgetown complex. And the divers from the Coast Guard, etc. I really want to thank these people. It would be remiss of me to get here and speak about a new bill, all the fancy things associated with it, which I come into shortly, unless I thank those persons who work with every connective tissue in the body to help rescue, rebuild, and restore this industry. And the seaweed workers who work hard in all these things. And I want to make special thanks to my chief fisheries, the chairman of the Fisheries Advisory Committee, who was there. All it now, he's still working to ensure that Oistins remain one of the most pristine towns, one of the most pristine towns in Barbados, none other than Kimar Hurst himself. I want to thank him for the work that he has been doing. And no offense, when I say the most pristine town, I mean no offense to my good friend from St. Peter. I know he would think that his Spice Town is second to none. And I make my apologies. I make my apologies on the floor, and I know that I cannot be harmed. I cannot be harmed verbally or otherwise once I am in this chamber. Right. Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, we have done a lot to help the rebuild of this industry. We have came with open arms, not only by talk, but by action to ensure that those in the industry, that they got the benefits, they got their money. We made sure that we have started building out our breakwater facility. We have already had our study tour in Canada, looking at different companies overseas. And I want to say today that the molds are already being prepared, and they are about to come in this country within the next couple of months, where we will have the new boats being built out in partnership, because we have had conversations with the Ministry of Agriculture to look for space in the wants now. I want to say that that is a work in progress, and the fishermen in this country could be assured that they will be getting the new boats that they pick, with the specifications that they wanted, with the dimensions that they insisted. And I want to say at center to the conversation is the fisher folk, because they told us, this government, this is the type of boats that we want. These specifications, the boat must have this, they must have that. It must be this height, it must be this length. That is what they told us. We didn't just suppose a boat and imagine it and just suppose it down their throats. They had the conversation with us. I told you it's about partnership. And good partnership requires that you don't have to run in front of somebody because they may not be fast enough to follow. If you walk too slow, they may walk past and lead and walk aimlessly. But good partnership requires you to stand steadfast at the side of people and hold their hands and walk them in the journey. And that is what this government has done since 2018 and since coming to elected politics. I am saying, Madam Deputy Chair, this bill, I will go in to the fulcrum of the bill because it really speaks to what we are doing in terms of building out our maritime space. I want to give the can-rested assurance that the fisher folk are in concert with this bill. It is one that hopefully will be passed in this August chamber. But I just want to give them the calm assurance that it has an 18-month grace period in terms of implementation. So what there's 18 months. So what they see, some things will be immediate, and there are other things because it is about continuous education. It's about continuous partnership. It's about continuous walking the walk and the journey with the people in the industry. That is the way how we intend to roll out this legislation. And I want to start at part 3 of the bill, which says that there must be now an advisory committee, or advisory council, which is responsible for advising the minister and making recommendations on fisheries matters. We are going to have an advisory council set up, where that advisory council, based on the nature of the day, will be able to advise the minister on the aquaculture, conservation, mariculture, technologies in fisheries, the concept in terms of having a green fishing industry. All those things the council will advise the minister on. Part 4 looks at establishing a fisheries management and development objective, and this is to allow a management plan to be put in place as we develop and conserve our fisheries sector. And the Chief Fisheries Officer, as the legislation speaks to, in consultation with stakeholders, must implement a fisheries management and development plan over a 5-year period. That is what we say in the legislation. Every 5 years, it must be reviewed because we understand that it is a constantly changing dynamic in terms of our fishing industry. And of course, and there are economic variables that we must face in order to make the industry relevant. We must be able, because it's our intention, to move it from a $10 million industry a year to 20 or 30 million or more, because we believe that a space that is 430 size, that of our biosphere, 430 size, must be able to give us 430 times more in terms of economic gain. Simple math. I won't call it what, you remember, Michael South called it just now. I am not a neologist. But I'm saying it is the investment in our people and help to build out our people. So, whereas we are making the finances, the foreign exchange, it is putting more money in the pockets of those persons who we consider the bedrock of the industry. That is the important message being sent home here. Part 5, data information. How we can, because data collection and having that information is important. We recognize it during the Hurricane Beryl saga, how this data is communicated to those in the industry, fisheries division, the other sectors, how we can have that information collected, because obviously a UU, which is illegal, unreported, unregulated fisheries, has become a problem. We recognize that a lot of the fisher folk after Hurricane Beryl had no national insurance, had no TAMIS information, had no banking information. So we tried our best to put a construct where their lives can be given that type of structure in terms of ensuring that if anything happens in the future, that they have those things that they can go to a bank and say, I want to borrow such and such happen, I want to take out medical insurance, all those things. That is what we spoke about as a ministry, and that's what we decided to ensure that there's proper data collection. Part 6, fishing gear and fishing methods. We are insisting, because over the next couple of years, we are going to build a marine spatial plan. We have started the work already. And we have said that the fishing gear, because there will be certain areas where we are not going to accept certain gear. There are certain areas where, for instance, how persons deposit their nets, etc., will be a concern in terms of marine managed areas. We are saying that fishing gear must now be biodegradable or compostable at the best, because we understand the importance of having those microplastics, those dioxins, those breakdown that can go into our water and enter, obviously, our palates when done. And when you're enjoying a good piece of tuna, marlin, salmon, because some people smiling, that we have to ensure that the fish that you get is wholesome and it does not contain any remnants from the deposits in terms of the breakdown of those microplastics. That is what we have said. So the gear must be of a particular, they must be made of a particular material which is green in nature, and it has the whole green concept associated with it. We are seeing that the fish aggregating devices that you see out must be regulated in terms of their usage, where they are put, etc. No person shall use any firearm. So you can't shoot fish. Let you know now. You can't shoot fish. That is a no-no. Electric shock device, not so. Explosives, again, not permitted. Poison or using other noxious type substances. And those are substances that are unpleasant. To be able to catch fish or do anything in terms of the catching of fish, we are saying that these methods are against the legislation. Any object used for disabling, killing, or rendering fish to be caught more easily. These are things that we are clamping down on, because you are destroying, you're not only destroying your fish stock, but you are bringing contaminants to that which people have to use in their long term at the end chain when you catch these fish using these illegal methods. At part 7 of the bill, part 7 of the bill, let me make sure I get it in, speaks to part 6 and part 7, fishing gear. Part 6 and part 7. Bill, part I don't find it no. Part 7, right, part 6. Yes, safety bill. I will go to part 8 and part 9, and then come back to part 7 and 8. Part 9 speaks to collaboration. This section sets out the criteria for the Chief Fisheries Officer with the approval of the Minister to collaborate with local stakeholders and regional and international development partners to promote in a number of ways the sustainable development of the sector. So it allows collaboration with those in the same sphere, the local stakeholders and those that are involved in the Caribbean regional fisheries mechanisms. Those types of persons that are involved in the industry at the regional level, we can have those discussions so that their inputs can help us in terms of capacity building to build out the industry. Part 10, observers. In this section, we set out an observer program for the purpose of collecting and reporting reliable and accurate information for scientific management and compliance purposes, including the information collected by the fisheries observers to remain confidential. So we will have observers being put on boats, which those persons can observe the operations. They will have access to information, ensuring that the lines that you use are the lines that we say that must be used, that you are not involved in any of the shooting, the placing of dynamites, the electric shock, anything so. So it will help us to have the eyes on vessels and at any place that is involved in fishing so that we can have the information being given to the fisheries so that they could regulate to suit. Part 11, fishing vessel surveyors and certificate. This part concerns the inspection of a Barbados registered commercial fishing vessel. The inspection is conducted on dry dock, so it allows us to inspect those vessels over twice in a 5-year period. And it says that those periods should not exceed 3 years, where that before you can go out into the ocean, you must get clearance by certification. I think this is very important because you don't want a situation where a fishing vessel goes into the ocean and because of faulty equipment, or there's some other issue that person's life and obviously their livelihood become in serious danger. These are things that we are trying to avoid, so we are making sure that the boats are indeed fit for our purpose. Section 12, registration of Barbados fishing vessels. It goes about the whole regime as it relates to how boats should be registered in Barbados, what is called a good boat in terms of a good fishing boat, the specs that you need, how you're supposed to register, what the process involving, how you apply, the certificate that is given after, and that this certificate must always be displayed on your vessel. And obviously, if there's any cancellation, suspension, etc., this information will be given through the Fisheries Division. Any person who uses a fishing vessel that is not registered is guilty of offense on this section and is liable, of course, on summary conviction to a fine of $100,000 or imprisonment for 12 months or both. This is a very, very important part of the legislation. We feel that in keeping with the international penalties that Barbados, that this is the type of fine that we would want because it is a dangerous practice. Right? Part 13, of course, speaks part 13 of the bill, operation requirements. Right, and again, part 13 speaks to the registration of foreign fishing vessels in Barbados. Clause 86 to 89 outlines the registration process for foreign vessels in Barbados, including documentation that is needed to be presented to facilitate the application. This section also makes provision for the establishment of a register of all foreign-owned vessels in Barbados. On receipt of the application and review of the document, the Chief Fisheries Officer will conduct an inspection of the vessel and issue a certificate once all conditions are satisfied. Part 14, the registration of international seagoing fishing vessels. And this registration, again, is done through the Fisheries Division, and it allows us to establish in Barbados an international fishing vessel registry program, and so that we will have that seagoing fishing vessel registered in Barbados, understanding, of course, that this is part of the way how we intend to go forward to ensure that those vessels have, they're called good standing in our waters. Part 15, this will be the registration of fish processing establishment. We know we have a number of fish processing establishments, and we are saying again that these establishments must be registered in accordance with the regulations as set about by the Chief Fisheries Officer and those persons in that department. Part 16 deals with licenses, and it makes provision for the issuance of licenses on this act to prohibit fishing and the operation of fishing vessels without permission. The application process for the issuance of a Barbados fishing vessel operator's license and the guidance on the approval process is also outlined in this section. So we are allowing persons to have a license, and we are giving them all the wherewithal so that they can do that. Part 17 deals with permits, and it makes provisions for the issuance of permits under this act to prohibit the conduct of fisheries research without permission, and it speaks to the application process. It stipulates that no person shall take fish in the course of fisheries-related research or survey operations except with the prior authorization of the Chief Fisheries Officer and in accordance with such conditions as he or she may impose. Violators of this subsection are guilty of an offense, and again, in keeping the international standards, they are liable on summary conviction to a fine of $150,000 and or imprisonment of 2 years. Part 18, construction, alteration, and conversion of a fishing vessel. It outlines a regime for ensuring that Barbados registered fishing vessels meet the prescribed standards for safety requirements, ensure the seaworthiness and safe operation of the vessels, the health and safety of the crew, and the quality of catch. And that is section 18. Section 19 and 20. Section 19 deals with boatyard and abandoned and derelict and stray vehicles. This is a present problem, and it provides a framework for the proper management of fishing vessels in boatyards to improve the cleanliness of the environment and promote best practices. You've seen over the years a number of derelict boats, derelict vessels in boatyards and in places across Barbados, and we are saying that this must now be a thing of the past, so no person shall abandon, store, or leave in a derelict condition a fishing vessel on land, on the coast, or at sea. Any person doing so is guilty of an offense and liable on summary conviction to a fine of $20,000 and or imprisonment for 3 months. So this section would obviously define the parameters when a vessel is considered abandoned, and after the necessary investigation and instructions, then the Chief Fisheries Officer will place notices as is done with abandoned vehicles on land, and then that person, if they fail to do that which they're supposed to do, will be subject to the fines associated with this section. Part 21, fish quality and safety. We are saying that the competent authority, that the Chief Fisheries Officer and her department is seen as the competent authority for the official control and safety of fish and fish products for human consumption. And we are saying that this is on the auspices of the Ministry of Health, who is responsible for the health of the land. So it allows for the prohibition of the sale of exports of adulterated, that's another way for unsafe or unhealthy fish, or fish products, and the measures for the proper disposal or reuse of fish waste. As I spoke of earlier, we have some women who are now in the project which is responsible for turning that fish offal or silage into for agricultural purposes into the agricultural belt for the farming community. Part 22, aquaculture and mariculture. Aquaculture is the rearing and cultivation of anything in fresh water. Mariculture speaks to that which is done in the seabelt. And we are saying that there must be control in terms of how this is done, what is introduced, how we set about those nets and those cages, the areas that are supposed to be done in terms of our marine areas, and this will be informed of, obviously, with our marine spatial planning, because there are certain areas that must be allocated for mariculture. We are saying that with this aquaculture and mariculture investment, that Barbados can benefit not only for an improved fish stock in terms of our fish management, but obviously for much needed foreign exchange, because the fish could be exported on the international market, because we already have in Barbados sanitary conditions for the export of fish. And trust me, we export good grade tuna that is long for across the rest of the world, especially in America. Part 23, climate change mitigation, adaptation, and disaster risk management in fisheries. We are saying that it allows for us to have that mitigation, the adaptation. We know what the coastal zone unit does in terms of our breakwaters, how those breakwaters help to mitigate those trusts, abnormal trusts on our beachfront. And we understand, we see it every day when you go from the north of the country straight down the west coast into the south, the damage caused by the abnormal trust of wave. Nature has a way of dealing that sometimes if you don't do your scientific research and have that understanding, that knowledge and understanding of what you're doing, nature will defeat you. It is a fight against nature is sometimes an onerous fight. But we have the technical expertise at the Coastal Zone Unit, and with that expertise, we are able to build infrastructure to help to resist those abnormal vagaries that we are exposed to on a yearly basis. And that's where you talk about the breakwaters, the groin, the revetments, those type of things, even our natural reefs, how we are able to help build out, to have that natural resistance and that built-in resilience. Part 24, fisheries and energy. I already spoke about transitioning into a more green energy sector. It is well known that our fishing boats, a trip on average can sometimes bring you anything between $5,000 in diesel costs to, it can go as high as $14,000 or $15,000 as far as I'm told. And I'm well informed because I have conversations with our fishermen on a daily basis. And that amount, I'm saying with a new trust, a hybrid technology or totally electrical technology, we can have a reduction in that cost. Not only a reduction in terms of, from a financial perspective, but a reduction in terms of the greenhouse effect and on our ozone layer, because it is well documented that the diesel and the carbon dioxide, obviously, that is released, that has harmful effects on our ozone layer, and it leads to the 40 or 50 billion tons that are released into the atmosphere every single year. So fisheries and energy is a very important part of the legislation and how we are going to get to a more green fishing industry. Part 25, gender in fisheries. We've already said that as if we are to just transition, if we are going to have that word being used for its full meaning, we must involve all players, all groups, indigenous people, women, especially our women, because women are now a big part, an essential cog in our fisheries exercise. Their work, most of the vendors are women, we know that. There's a all-female group in Bridgetown, which is responsible for the fish offal and fish silage project. We know that, and they're doing tremendous work. We know that the indigenous knowledge of the fisher folk is good knowledge that we must harness and be able to pass down to generations. We know this. So gender and our ability to have women being pushed. We have a woman, a female, who now is the head of Banufo. The Secretary Treasurer for the Banufo is also a lady. So we have women in all different aspects of the fishing community. There's also a female captain, as far as I understand, who captains a smaller boat. So women at the center of the conversation is a part of this legislation because we believe in equality, equity, and diversity. I think that's a very important dimension that we are dealing with now. Part 26, fisheries cooperatives. We understand the importance. We understand the importance, of course, of having a cooperative with respect to our fishing industry. We know that if persons form groups, they can lobby for better rates, and not only in insurance, but be able to get mortgages. They can levy for opportunities in terms of other investments. So we are encouraging persons to form groups so they can have shared capital and shared interests, and to help develop their business interests. Part 27, the corporate social responsibility, outlining an innovative regime that allows companies engaged in fisheries and fisheries-related business in Barbados to take corporate social responsibility for actions to support sustainable fishing efforts in the fishing sector. So we're encouraging persons to be part of the beach cleanups, the whole reef restoration, how they're able to help harness our sea turtle and the sea turtle egg. Make sure, for instance, that the hotels have the lights, the turtle-friendly lights. All those things, because it is your corporate responsibility to ensure that the beach in front of your space, that space is kept clean, that you use the compostable plastics rather than the ones that would not biodegrade and allow for plastics to get in the ocean and kill not only our flora but our fauna as well. So we are saying that there must be a corporate responsibility from the players involved in the fishing industry. There must be a give back situation so they can help sponsor for research, sponsor for give scholarships, and they have already acquiesced to giving scholarships to persons who are studying in this industry. Part 28, fish aggregating devices. A lot has been said about those. We know the importance of having those, using different specific sensors to attract the smaller fish so the bigger fish will come around, and they will allow the fishermen to have specific or targeted fishing. This is something that we are saying is very important to the whole fishing exercise. Part 29, fisheries and marine spatial plan. With our definition swap in 2020, we said as a part of that $150 million over the period of time, that one of the conservational projects that we will be looking at first up is a marine spatial plan, a plan that is able to demarcate our whole EEZ, into various areas so we can have the true and full potential of what we call the Barbados, the 200 nautical miles of Barbados, our EEZ. We have said that there must be areas, and I want to say that we have already approved for the Institute of Ireland with a memorandum of understanding to be able to do our first study tour of southwestern and northeastern areas. So we're going to look at, because we said the first thing we will look at in terms of that marine spatial plan is to help build out our high protective and medium protective biodiversity. And we have recognized that those areas are the areas that we are going to study first, because we understand, of course, the importance of biodiversity. We have said already in our National Strategic Biological Action Plan that life basically started with biodiversity. It will end abruptly without it. So we have to ensure that biodiversity must now be the buzzword, not only on land, where we say that we will liberate over the next 10 years or so about 70%, but our ocean space, which can give us another 13% or so. So we are starting with those two areas, the southwest area, the northeast area, to be able to liberate our high protective biodiversity and our medium protective biodiversity. But over the course of the next 5 to 7 years, we are going to ensure that every single area of our EEZ is demarcated so you can have areas for energy conservation. areas for reef restoration, areas for artisanal fishing, areas that will be responsible for, I say recreation, right? Marine managed areas for the management of marine species. Areas, of course, that we will look at the different metallic nodules or whatever under the bottom of the ocean for resource management. So wind turbine as a source, energy, maybe from BF activities, all these things will be part of a marine plan that is fully built out. So we are going to ensure that the sustainable use of our marine space is realized over the next 5 or 7 years. And that is what a marine spatial plan will do. We have already started the conversation because we are not taking these things and just dropping them onto the shoulders of Barbadians. We have started the conversation with our stakeholders. They have gone around communities across Barbados. Dr. Brewster and his entire team from the Coastal Zone Management Unit. They have had engagement with the planning, implementing committees of the parishes. They have had engagement with schools. They have taken some schools on board. They have had engagements with even the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, where they are involved in the discussion on how their thing is best that we demarcate our ocean space for full potential. That is what we say in terms of our marine spatial planning. Part 30, fisheries-specific payment for ecosystem services. We are saying that fisher folk in this country and the chief fisheries officer, in consultation with the relevant stakeholders, can develop fisheries-specific payment for ecosystem services. So persons who are involved in these services, persons who can lend assistance to the industry by providing relevant information on catch and about the whole nomenclature of the ocean or whatever, those persons can be paid as part of cash for conservation activities and contracts. And this is a very novel way of giving back to the industry. And I'm saying that this is something that we embrace, and over the next couple of months, hopefully we can have the code of practice for persons participating in the marine PSE schemes. Part 31, sea moss cultivation. I know that across Barbados, you see youngsters going in the supermarket and asking for sea moss. I don't know if the August men in this chamber do the same thing, but sea moss over the years, there is a school of thought associated with its aphrodisiac potential. But there, I want to say that we have started for a little while now, sea moss cultivation just off of St. Lucie. And we are saying, we are working with the BIDC and Export Barbados to ensure that that industry is one that can commit itself to the test of times. Part 32, UU fishing. Illegal, unreported, non-regulated fishing, a thing that has hampered countries around the world, not only Barbados. That is why we are saying that any person who engages in UU fishing or activities within the waters of Barbados, which is responsible for depleting our fish stock, causing a detriment to local marine ecosystems, depriving our national efforts in terms of conservation and management, deprives legitimate fishing activities in our waters, or threatens the national food security, is guilty of an offense. So a UU brings an offense of, and a person who is liable on summary conviction will be exposed to a fine of $100,000 or a term of imprisonment of 12 months or both. Again, this is in keeping with international standards. Part 33, transshipment of fish. It speaks to the specific regulations as it relates of transferring fish. It doesn't really happen in Barbados as yet, but fish from on board one vessel to another. And there are certain regulations that we have put in place so that we can have oversight of any activities that is responsible for moving fish from one boat or another. And the chief fisheries officer, obviously, and her officers will be responsible for managing this process. The part 34, marine living resources and fisheries-related crime. It speaks to the crimes is a wide range of illegal activities that can cause harm or destruction to our habitats and our ecosystem. And it is any effort that can bring harm in terms of stopping us from manage our marine resources. That, therefore, is an offense. And F for any of these crimes, including illegally bioprospecting for marine genetic resources, any person who's caught doing that can be subject to this legislation. And this part of the legislation speaks to a fine of $200,000 and or imprisonment for 3 years. Part 35 deals with seafood traceability and fraud prevention in fisheries. We believe that from the time a fish is caught, there must be traceability until the time it enters the palates of individuals. We really believe that having that knowledge is essential, because we must be able to say that it's not caught from noxious activities, it's not caused by any illegal activities, and that what you get is a wholesome fish for export purposes. We must be able to say the same thing to meet our international commitments. Part 36, fisheries protective officers. And in this part, we are saying that the duties, powers, of fisheries protective officers, and how those powers and duties will be enforced across the length and breadth of our fishing industry. And these officers will be entitled fisheries protective officers, so that the compliance with these regulations and the directives contained in this act could be operationalized. Part 37 deals with enforcement, and it outlines the range of powers of the chief fisheries officer and any authorized officer, customs or police officer, or any officer or soldier of the Barbados Defense Force serving as a member of the Barbados Coast Guard. So it deals with how they are allowed to enforce this act. It also stipulates what the chief fisheries officer can do. They are given authority to her officers who are immune from any lawsuits or legal processes for anything done or omitted or to be done in good faith in the execution of the powers under this act. Part 38, fiscal arrangements, describe the services for which the chief fisheries officer may apply fees and requirements for him to maintain a list of the fisheries services and corresponding fees. The section also mandates that foreign fishing license holders shall pay royalties for the extraction of Barbados fishery and other marine living resources. So it deals with that type of arrangement. Part 39, fishing vessel accidents. This clause stipulates that the immediate reporting of any fishing accident must be done to the chief fisheries officer, and mandates that the master of each vessel, which is the captain, involved in a collision shall render such assistance as practical to the other vessel and its crew to save them from danger caused by the collision. Each one must help one, that's what we are saying. And that must be who we are as Barbadians. So if you want to expect a vessel to be involved in an accident at sea, and the vessel who has good standing to leave the other vessel in distress, so persons may be in danger of life, limb, or vessel. Part 40, deals with the fisheries dispute settlement. And it looks at how those fisheries dispute settlement tribunal will be set up. The membership of the tribunal is presented as the process for applying for dispute settlement by tribunal. And persons can obviously have this as a way to, if they are aggrieved by decisions, the tribunal may appeal to the High Court. So this sets about, in this section, the processes where that appeal could be done. Part 41, fisheries and tourism. We know very well that our tourists come, they love our beaches, they enjoy our water, they enjoy the beauty of our country. They're obviously involved in, and I know the Minister of Tourism, he would have spent a long time ensuring, and energy, ensuring that there's community tourism. I've seen with my own eyes the amount of tourists who traverse our length, our breadth of this country, Speightstown, Oisinstown, enjoying the delicacies afforded to them. And there are a lot involved in recreational fishing as well. In our game fishing tournament, we have thousands of persons in this country involved in the whole game fishing exercise. We know that tourists, they come to our country, they're involved in the feeding of our sea life, and they explore the ocean, the Atlantis submarine tours. So fishing and tourism is a very important part of the dimension if we are to really build out our industry. Part 42, fishing vessels chartering. This section clause comprehensively sets out the conditions, procedures, and applicable regulations for bareboat charter and registration. And this section really is a short section that speaks for itself. Part 43, Barbados Institute for Fisheries and Fisheries-Related Studies. It establishes, of course, an institute for fisheries and fisheries-related study. And as the name implies, among other things, it provides for the education in fisheries. We believe that with the new technologies and new techniques being done across the world, that our fisher folk could benefit from having an institute specifically to cater to their needs, where that their social dynamics will be looked after as well, training in terms of finance management, those types of things, because we believe in bringing a business, we call a very good business towards what they're doing in their sector. So the Chief Fisheries Officer, in consultation with the relevant stakeholders, shall develop a governing instrument to be known as the Charter of the Barbados Institute for Fisheries and Fisheries-Related Studies. And this discussion has already started with the experts in academia. Part 44, application of international and regional fisheries instruments. Through this section, a number of key international fisheries instruments are brought into force in Barbados. It's also stipulated that regional fisheries agreement to which Barbados is party shall comply with the extent practicable. And we know that we are part of CRFRN, Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, and we follow a lot of their guidelines as it relates to how we build out our industries. Part 45 is the miscellaneous section, of course. As the name implies, this part deals with a wide range of topics, including actions to be taken in relation of non-payment of application fees. It speaks to the way how the minister, in consultation with the Chief Fisheries Officer and stakeholders, shall facilitate the entry into agreements on fisheries subsidies. And this context outlines the requirements for such undertaking, how we can have those conversations about subsidies, and how we can facilitate other specific activities or projects in fisheries. So the section really looks at, because we're not only calling it our subsidies for our fishing industry, but it's how we provide that helping hand to ensure that the industry is able to do what that we know it can do. Going back to section 7, the prohibition on pollution in fishing areas, and it speaks to specifically that no person shall introduce into any fishing area any deleterious matter, noxious substance that's harmful to the fish. So it speaks to the environmental protection of the fishing area, not only for the flora, but the fauna of well, because we understand our reefs and the importance of reefs to having that blue carbon sink. And section 8, of course, well, section 7 also deals with the discharge of ballast water. My minister colleague from St. Michael West Central would have spoken about that no discharges of the ballast water should happen unless it's regulated by the authorities in Barbados. The use of antifouling agents, which are agents in paints, those harmful agents that can seep into our water supply and cause harm to the marine environment, how vessel repairs should be done, and the facilities used for vessel repairs, all those things, and the discharge permits, because any person who wishes to discharge in Barbados any harmful or pollutant, there are certain regulations as it relates to how those discharges should be done. And this section speaks specifically to that. Fish waste receptacles and the facilities for fish waste. And it says that the minister may regulate the provisions of fish waste in the facilities in Barbados, how that fish waste receptacle should be set up, and the purposes of that fish waste, and how those discharges should be done. And this, of course, will be done in consultation with our Environmental Protection Department. Section 8. Section 8 now deals with part, part A. Part A, of course, the control of pollution by fishing gear. I would have mentioned before that there is no need in with the way how we are looking in terms of going green into the fishing, there is no need to ensure that we have a set of regulations that lot of the pollution of fishing gear, which means that those products that are used in our fishing gear must not be able to pollute our marine environment. And we are saying that there is a standard associated with this fishing gear in terms of what we should expect from our fishermen, and that the regulation obviously is rolled out by our chief fisheries officer in consultation obviously with the minister. It looks at there are certain international regulations that speak already to the disposal of any hazardous or noxious substance, and that is the Basel Convention. And those international conventions we are already signatory to. The Marpol Convention, which looks at the marine pollution and the legislation as it relates to our marine pollution. So that is the legislation as it relates to the Sustainable Fisheries Management and Development Bill. I will go quickly to the sister bill, which is the post-harvest bill, the Seafood Markets and Business Bill. And to say that the bill, I will go straight to part 3. The first 2 parts are perfunctory, and these with seafood business and the legislation that sets out how the regulations of a seafood business, those regulations, how you can grant a license to carry out a seafood business, and requirements under the Ministry of Health, because there are certain requirements once it's a food business that must be met in terms of the handle of a certificate. We are going to call it the Seafood Supply Chain Transparency Verification Certificate, and that certificate will look at the way how those businesses operate, and in order to issue a certificate, persons must conform to certain regulations. Part 4 deals with the processors of fish and other seafoods, and it speaks to the legislation as it relates to a national scheme for processors of fish and other seafoods, lobsters, conch, octopus, you name it, will be established. So we are designing to foster the growth and support of the fish processors and those involved in the seafood industry. The primary purpose of this scheme is to establish clear standards for the formalities, procedures, and documentation required to enhance efficiency in seafood processing, so that which you get on your table is of, again, a wholesome and good quality. Section 5 deals with fish trawling commercial operations. As I said, this is not done in Barbados yet, but the legislation is here from a futuristic point of view. National Registry of Fish and Trawlers will be established under this legislation. In this context, fish trawling refers to factory vessels that catch and process seafood on board. This has not been happening in Barbados as yet, but in the not too distant future, it happens in other countries, and we are saying that this regulation, this particular part, will deal with that aspect of the regulation. And part 6, traditional fisheries knowledge and the commerce associated with this traditional fisheries knowledge. We are saying that it is high time that those persons who have the indigenous knowledge, the knowledge that operates in their cranium, that knowledge, once it's good and good and fair and wholesome knowledge, that knowledge should be knowledge that we could invest in. And investing, I mean that there should be paid for that knowledge. That's what we are saying. So a person who has expertise and significant knowledge in their field of endeavor as it relates to fishing, would, with this new legislation, would be able to sell this knowledge at, once the program is set up, they'll be able to sell this knowledge, because as part of a learning exercise, we are saying that we will promote it and allow those persons to be able to sell those knowledge and get just reward for that information they have in terms of building back out our industry. There are certain indigenous knowledge that the older fisher folk have, that in terms of boat building, in terms of the area of catch, the restoration of our reefs, and we are saying that information is information that we must harness and be able to pay for so that we can have the full build-out of the industry. As I said, if we intend to just transition, we must not just transition with those academia, but persons are already a part of this, the spectrum. Yeah, turn over. And part A, of course, is the miscellaneous part. It's also crucial for seafood and safety standards in Barbados to be followed for certain reasons. We know the public health issues in terms of safety. It is to ensure that seafood being sold for human consumption is safe and free from contaminants. Economic growth and market access. Seafood is one of Barbados' many exports, such as the yellowfin tuna, which contributes to the island's economic growth. As dishes such as sushi become more popular in North America, North American markets, of course, tuna fisheries in the Caribbean region are becoming higher in demand. So it looks at environmental sustainability and how we should allow standards of the seafood business to operate in a manner that does not harm the environment, but along with that, bring much needed foreign exchange. Seafood event permits, we are saying that events that happen in Barbados, we know that oysters is a very, they call it active place in terms of seafood and how they're processed and sell such seafood. And we are saying that for events, we are going to be issuing licenses so that persons, when they're having these special events, we will ensure that there's traceability and there is proper and wholesome food at the end of the day. So, clause 40, at the end, the chief fisheries officer may cancel, suspend, or revoke any license, permit, certificate, or any other instrument where the holder contravenes this act. Madam Deputy Chair, I would have spent the better part of around 2 hours or so exposing a bill that would basically change, transform, and bring a new dimension to our fishing industry. But after all of that discussion, the one question that may be asked, which I intend to answer, is how would it benefit the ordinary man? How would it benefit the fisherman? How would this legislation benefit the vendors, the boat agents, those that are integral in the industry? And, Madam Deputy Chair, I intend to answer it in summary. This new legislation will help us to support sustainable national food and nutritional security. The fishing industry, as I said before, is a $10 million industry. With these new mechanisms and regulations and systems that we have put in place to improve the industry, we believe we can double it, and in the not too distant future, triple it. We have had the Game Fishing Association now, and they are the first to say that their industry is a $10 million industry every year as well. So we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. It will facilitate financial and social empowerment to the fishermen, the boat owners, the captains and crew, because they will be using with a new value chain, they'll be able to get the top dollar for their products, which is very important. It will protect the access to export markets and expansion to market opportunities, obtaining higher prices for sustainable products. We are going to enhance climate resilient fisheries and the infrastructure, as we said that we are going to build out, facilitating vendors access to improved facilities to provide high quality, wholesome fish to customers. And we have started it with the new stalls and the facilities at all the markets. Use of technology to improve research and rescue operations and identify productive fishing grounds with, for example, depth sounders and Starlink that will catalyze smart fishing. So we are going to have on the fishing boats new depth sounders so that they will know the different depths and the areas with Starlink, so that they can have the computerized system to know where the catch is and to improve their catch when they go fishing. All these new technologies we are going to bring to the industry for our fisher folk. By protecting our marine ecosystem by reducing the pollution, as I spoke to earlier, overfishing, and the use of harmful fishing gear, we are going to preserve our marine fish stock, whether it is the flora or the fauna, because you are allowed for less harmful activities in the ocean. The legislation provides for the establishment of co-ops to support acquisition of loans, etc. So fishermen can now go as groups and get loans from banks, things that I couldn't do before. We are going to allow them with the right guidance and the wherewithal to be able to position themselves so they can get loans and grants from institutions, not only locally, but internationally as well. It also provides for the prudent use and management of our fish aggregation devices. Very important, so we can have a sustainable fish catch. It provides training opportunities to equip our fisher force with the skills and qualifications. Promoting green energy transition in the sector to reduce operational costs so that the fishermen with a hybrid system and electrical system in their boats won't have to pay the $14,000 and $15,000 that they have to pay now in terms of diesel costs. Protect and enhance livelihoods, families, and decent work opportunities while ensuring that fisheries resources are available for present and future generations. Ensure the just transition and promote climate justice. I also spoke about the just transition earlier and how we are going to ensure that with a just transition, that women and indigenous groups are brought into the whole picture. Uplift the profile of the sector and highlight its importance to the blue economy development by highlighting all these things that we are doing in the fishing industry, all conservative means, the fact that we are having marine spatial plan and that we are improving in terms of our mariculture. It allows the international community to take notice of our activities, and so that we will be part of the conversation as it relates to marine conservation. And Barbados can tick all the boxes as it relates to how we treat our maritime space for conservational good best practices. And I think that is very important. Lastly, fishermen can now be paid for their indigenous and traditional knowledge, something that never happened before. Madam Deputy Speaker, I am happy today to be able to bring a piece of legislation, 32 years in the make, and to say to Barbadians that when you are down, it is not how you hold your head. It is not how you are, it is not how you are made to reflect on the situation. It is how you pick up the pieces, you put them together, and you build forward better. So it's not only about having that reflective moment. It is not only about facing it, but, Madam Deputy Chair, it is about fixing it. And this legislation allows us to augment the 3 R's. It allows us to rescue an industry. It allows us to rebuild an industry. And lastly, it allows us to restore confidence. It allows us to restore zeal and zest, energy and vision and hope in the industry, where the fishermen in Barbados can dream the Bajan fishing dream. Madam Deputy Chair, I beg to read that this legislation be read a second thing.
Honourable Member for Christchurch South and Leader of the Opposition.
I'm obliged to you, Your Honor. And please permit me to join you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and to welcome those technocrats who are with us this morning, And you will permit me to join you and to extend a very, very special welcome to the youngest citizens in this Parliament at present, the students of I think it's the Foundation School and their teachers who have brought them here to see how we conduct ourselves. And more importantly, to see how we conduct the business of this Parliament. So that one feels a dual obligation this morning to address the legislation, the two pieces of legislation that have come to this Parliament, and to explain to our visitors what happens to that legislation, why indeed we're doing what we're doing, generally speaking. They will be told and they will understand that this Parliament, I'm sure their teachers have told them that this Parliament is the highest lawmaking body in the country. That this Parliament, under the Constitution of this country, makes the laws. I did say highest lawmaking body because there are other officials within the state, and the state is not the government. The state is a larger human community that has control of this place we call Barbados. For example, the Commissioner of Police has the authority to make laws if there's a cycling race, for example, along a certain route. The Commissioner of Police will publish in one of the newspapers a route along which one may not be allowed to travel. And that is his lawmaking power. The Chief Town Planner, for example, has the authority to pass laws. He can tell you within how many feet of your boundary you may or may not build. So all of these are functionaries within the state, which we call subordinate lawmaking functionaries. But we will tell our guests today, Your Honor, that the principal lawmaking body in this country is this Parliament, and that all law derives from the Constitution, which also was made by this Parliament. Now, I am not going to go on too long an expedition because I discover that not only are our young students learning the law today, but perhaps some of our members here are learning the law, and I am happy for them. I am always willing to teach my colleagues. Now, may I proceed, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Now, it was this Parliament that passed a law called the Constitution of this country, and that's the supreme law. All law is subordinate or inferior to the Constitution. And it would be rather ironic if this Parliament were to pass a law called the Constitution, which contains the fundamental right to freedom of speech, and that the members of this Parliament did not also enjoy that